So thank you all for joining us today. We are especially focused on today's session in understanding what the NHA exam is, how it works, and how you can work towards preparing for your test. I thought we could maybe start with a little get to know you. I wanted to find out just a quick question. I'm going to post a poll on your screen. So are you testing through a program or institution? Are you testing as an individual? We just kind of want to know a little bit more about who's with us today. So take just a minute and fill that out for us. Wonderful. Thank you. Got almost everybody. That's exciting. And I'll share these with you here in just a second. Anybody else want to ante in? We're going to close up that poll here right quick. Excellent. All right. So it looks like we have a nice, healthy kind of exchange of people from all over, though the bulk of the people are doing this through an academic program. But no worries, what the information that we have today is going to be valuable for everybody. So thank you all so much for that. We just wanted to kind of get to know you guys a little bit. So here at NHA, we are fully invested in the success for all of our candidates. We're here to help ensure that no matter what your background or needs, that you do feel confident and empowered to know your resources. And no matter where you are in your journey to eventually earn your NHA nationally accredited certification. Now, we know that confidence is a really big part of that process. So today's goals are to address some of the biggest questions that we've gotten from candidates around the NHA exams and preparation for the exam itself. For a little bit of information, NHA is the largest frontline healthcare worker certification organization in the industry. We have over 1 million certified candidates, and we provide certifications and learning resources for the entire journey. Of our 8 nationally accredited certifications, 5 fall within a more practitioner side of frontline healthcare. So this includes medical assistant, phlebotomist, pharmacy technician, EKG, and patient care technician. There are also 3 for more administrative work, which include billing and coding, administrative assistant, and e-health records. In addition, NHA has developed comprehensive learning tools around key objectives for these healthcare professions that we serve. But today, we're really going to focus on just the resources and best practices for sitting for any of those 8 nationally accredited certifications. So now we do get questions from candidates all the time regarding this. Before we get into that, I wanted to ask another quick question here. So now that we've kind of talked about all of those different pieces, which certification or certifications, if you can, and scroll down because they're all there, are you preparing for? Go ahead and select the certification that you're going to be testing for. Give you just a second. We got folks from all over. This is so exciting. Thank you for answering. I see a couple people are chatting with us too. Thanks for doing that. All right, I'm going to go ahead and close up this poll here. So you guys can see we do have people testing in every single certification. It's very exciting. Majority are in the medical assisting, not uncommon, but thank you for sharing that with us. It just gives us a little bit more information. Now, when we talk about questions, I'm going to list some of our most common questions, okay? So these are 4 of the most frequent questions that we get. So of these 4, which one is your biggest question for today? Go ahead and take your pick there. Excellent. Thank you guys for doing that. Wonderful. Okay, we're going to go ahead and close that up. So it looks like the bulk of you are really concerned about exam readiness. Well, guess what? If we talk to our candidates across the country, right, these are different examples of the same questions that we get. And it really boils down to being uncertain or anxious around the test. And guess what? Of the 6,000 candidates that we've surveyed in a particular survey recently, you're not alone. That's really the biggest question is test anxiety, a worry that I'm not ready. That's the biggest concern. Now, these are all big concerns, and we're going to go through all of them today. But this is one of the many reasons why it's a best practice to think about preparation, to get your NHA account set up early in your journey. We're going to be sending you all kinds of information once that is set up. So we're going to talk a little bit about these different concerns. Specifically, here's our agenda for today. The most common questions, right? We're going to look over what it means to have a certification. How do they work? Resources to help you prepare and understanding that readiness factor. So these are going to be kind of our primary topics for today. Though we know that you could be at any point in your journey, we're going to walk you through some of the key things to know about the NHA exam. So, wherever you are in your process, you'll have important information to help as you prepare for your goal, hopefully, of becoming NHA certified. So, let's jump in. The first thing is to really just understand what it means to earn an NHA or accredited certification. So let's start by just talking about what certification even is. Having a certification represents more than just completing a course or program. It actually proves that you've done more. You've gone above and beyond to have your abilities and knowledge in important core areas of your field validated. Having a certification gives employers a next level of confidence in you and what you can do. But why is it important? Well, I mentioned earlier, we work with employers across the country, and we know that they value candidates who have an industry certification. We see this in those that do are often more likely to get hired, even have a higher pay scale, better job security, possibly a pathway for career advancement. Having your certification tells employers that your skills are credible, that you have a set of abilities that have been confirmed and will provide them with improved safety and standards of care. With the growing trend for employees to take on more and more responsibilities, this provides a huge benefit to the employer. So they find it really important. For example, even though a job posting may say they're looking for a medical assistant or pharmacy technician, when employers go to screen applications, having credentials in a national certification will make you stand out, even if the certification isn't on the job description. In fact, a recent survey of employers across the country said that 91%, so 91% of the employers we surveyed said that they would hire a candidate who has a certification over one who doesn't. It's a pretty big number. In the last few years as well, we've seen some other industry trends on hiring and candidate skills. We know that on average, employers are having a hard time locating qualified candidates. There's also been, as I mentioned, an increase in reporting that healthcare employees have more responsibilities. And on average, candidates lack required EMR skills. Getting your industry certification or even stacking that with additional credentials can provide employers confidence that you are equipped to do the job at hand. Now, having your certification doesn't just help you get your foot in the door, but it can help you earn more income. Of those interviewed, the majority of employers confirmed they will increase pay when or if an employee earns a professional certification. So that same survey showed that 86% of healthcare employers highly encourage or require that their staff earn an industry certification, and 62% of their HR teams use if you have one in a screening process prior to hire. Showing that you've earned an industry credential will put you into the right pile to get that first interview. So, when looking to get your national certification, it's important to take note if it's an accredited one. But what does that even mean? Well, having an accredited certification like those with NHA means that you're being tested on what has been evaluated at an industry level. We're not just testing you on stuff we think you should know, but what the industry says you need to know. The NHA certification exams are accredited through the Institute for Credentialing Excellence with the National Commission for Certifying Agencies, or NCCA. This means that the certifications themselves are nationally recognized and accredited. In addition, NHA is also recognized by the big program accreditations, which confirm academic programs. And we sponsor those certifications, those programs, which means that we helped establish what the industry trends should be. So that's the MAERB, CAHEP, ABHES pieces you see there. So all this is to say that you should feel confident in your decision to work with NHA on earning that credential, to partner with us and get there. So I can't wait to see your face here when you earn your certification, because we all know it's going to happen, right? We're rooting for you. So a quick search on any certification company's website, like NHA's, should bring up the ability to see their accreditation status. Always do your research beforehand to make sure that what you're earning, what you're sitting for as a test, really stands for something in the industry. Some other information to know is that we are the largest frontline healthcare worker certification organization in the industry. We're partnered with lots of other organizations. And as I mentioned earlier, we do have over 1 million certified candidates right now. Another great benefit is that we've been working with a program called ACE that has been approved for some of our certifications to also provide transferable college credits through a program called Credly. So going on our website, you can search that, you'll get a little bit more information, but it's just another benefit for earning your NHA certification. Okay, the next thing is to really understand the exam itself. So one of the big questions that we were looking at earlier was about if you're eligible to take one of NHA's certification exams. And if you're not sure, our website has a short quiz you can take that will ask you just a few questions to make sure you have the minimum requirements to sit for any of those tests. You can also read more about them in the candidate handbook to make sure that all of your questions are answered. But for those of you who said you're working through an academic program, the good news is you should be meeting everything you need to test. And if you have more questions again on that, you can definitely leverage our candidate handbook. But that will outline for you that NHA does have more than one option to gain eligibility. So either by successfully completing your academic program or having done so in the last 5 years. This can also include active military experience or an employer-based program. Or if you have been working in the role recently in the last 3 years with at least 1 full year of work during that time, that's another avenue for eligibility. So, okay, I'm eligible, but tell me more about the test itself. So that really starts with the test plan. This is the blueprint or outline of the exam. The test plan provides an overview of all topics and concepts that we call domains or competencies, as well as the number of test questions on the exam related to those topics. This plan is created after a long nationwide analysis of the role, including what's expected of you and where the industry is trending or may be requiring of you soon. All of the test plans are available on our website and are not only the foundation for our online study materials, but also that detailed list of what to expect on the test. Links to the plans are available for any of those exams. Find your test plan, locate the certification on our website, and then scroll all the way down and you'll be able to download the test plan for free. But how does the exam test plan work exactly? Okay, so let's take another question. I'm going to ask another question of you guys here. How do you think the NHA exam is scored? How do we score you on that certification test? So take a look at some options here. These are our most common suggestions or thoughts. Go ahead and select the one that you think is the most accurate, and I don't know is an acceptable answer. It's okay. All right, give you guys just a second to read through those. I know there's a couple of them. Great. Okay, thanks everybody. I'm going to leave it for another second, let you kind of fill it out, and then we're going to close that up. All right. Thank you so much. So it looks like the majority of people are thinking that you need to pass with a 70% or higher. Okay. Well, that totally fine. I completely understand. But what we're going to do is talk about how they're really scored. So the NHA exams are scored through a very special process. It's kind of a complicated question that many can struggle with, even instructors. So don't worry if it is a little bit weird at first, but basically, the scoring includes several steps to ensure that all candidates are scored fairly, no matter what test or test version you're taking. Okay. So, which is why, again, that test plan is important. It shows you all the possible items that you may be tested on. Everyone who tests will follow the same blueprint for that exam type. The scored items outline a series of skills that will be on the test itself. You should also know that there will be questions on the exam that won't be scored, and you're not going to know which ones those are. So you want to be sure to answer all questions to the best of your ability, because a blank answer is a wrong answer. But every candidate who takes this test will follow this exact same test plan, but not everyone may have the same questions. So again, our goal is to score each one of you fairly across a range of possible questions. So each question has been reviewed through a series of processes that include primarily how hard is that question, or how often in your job might you have to do this thing, even how important is it that you get it right the first time. Some things are pretty important that you know how to do it the first time. Now, these are just some of the layers that are used to set the score. This weighting is put into a value, and each test version has the same possible maximum score, which is 500 points. So that means 500 is a perfect score. Every tester, every test version has the potential of earning 500 points. So the minimum passing score you need to earn a certification based on those values is a 390 or higher. So even if you miss by 1 point, getting a 389, for example, doesn't necessarily mean you missed just one question, but that you didn't quite make the minimum required score after all your answers were reviewed. So that poll that we did, the most correct answer here was that the exam has a minimum required score, what we call a cut score, to make sure that no matter what, you are being scored fairly against the questions you've been given to evaluate your unique abilities and knowledge in the role. So in the case that we need to maybe update an exam test plan, like we're doing later around the new year for the administrative assistant certification, we want you to know that we are doing those changes. And we do see we've been posted the current and the new test plans on our website. So depending on when you're going to test, you can already start preparing for the right content. So we like to post that as early as possible. All right, so let's get to the next step. This is where we actually do the preparation. So we're going to review the tools available to you, some best practices for putting that work in before taking your exam attempt. So now we know across the country, candidates who use the NHA exam preparation materials and follow best practices when studying have a much higher possibility of passing the exam on their first attempt. So on that, I'm going to ask another quick question here. Just post this out. How many of you who are with us today have or will have through your program access to the NHA exam study materials? Go ahead and take a look here and let's see. All right, give you guys just a second. So while we're waiting on that, just so you guys know, on those unscored or non-scored questions, they don't have any weight bearing to the actual exam. So if you get one of those incorrect, don't worry about it. We're just using that for data collection. All right, I'm going to go ahead and close this up. Okay, so this is exciting. It does actually look like the bulk of you already have or may be getting them. So we're going to talk a little bit about what those are. So if you do have questions on them, this is the moment to kind of post those. Remember, find that Q&A box and post questions there so we can be sure and answer them for you. So, a recent survey, which we've already looked at a little bit of data from, of those 6,000 certification holders, they expressed that on average, they wished they had studied with these materials earlier and more frequently than they did before taking their certification exam. So, let's review what they are. NHA's prep materials are based on the test plan we were just talking about. The full prep package includes an online study guide and series of practice tests. This comes along with personalized reporting tools and an additional study tool called the focused review. So we're going to talk about how each of these can help you before your test. Many programs are providing these through tuition cost or from an employer, for example, but not all. So, whether you choose to purchase these or if it's been provided to you, once you have access to them, you can get them through either the My Courses or My Materials links in your NHA account. Again, it just depends on how you're accessing that material. To follow NHA's best practices, we would suggest you start in the study materials through the study guide. This is the suggestion. This is the same for all of the materials except any of you doing the billing and coding exam. This actually has a baseline practice test that we'd recommend you take first, just to kind of level set where you're coming from. But either way, when you get into that lesson to the study guide, we suggest you start with the lesson first to review and explore the interactive learning tools. So we're going to take a look real quick. The online study guide has a lot of amazing features. So let's walk through just a few of them. So each exam package is unique, has a little bit of different features, but they all have a very similar format. And it's broken into main categories or sections. So each one aligned to core content from the exam and from that primary area. These chapters or modules will take you through how NHA talks to this material and tests you on it. You can have access to activities and games throughout the material. There are checkpoints and assessment tools. Use these to apply what you're learning and see how well you're retaining the information, not just to take them over and over again until you get a good score. Okay, that's not the best way to use those. There are also additional tools like glossaries of key terms, flashcards, and even a series of potential professionalism videos. These aren't necessarily on the exam themselves, they can help you to prepare for those interviews, job placement. So, in fact, we've recently launched a flashcard app to help further. Once you have access to your study materials, you can download this app on any mobile device, log in with your NHA login. It should then take you through all the flashcards you have access to with fun ways to keep organized and help as you review. You can easily download this for Android or Apple devices. There are how-tos on our website that walk you through how to do that depending on the device that you're using. Okay, so once you've worked through the lesson or module, then we would suggest you take the quiz tied to that unique chapter to see how much you remember. Now, these are designed to look and feel just like the exam, as well as practice tests, but are focused in just this one core area. So you can see how ready you are to move on. Now, we're not just going to tell you if you got the question right or wrong. We're going to provide the content to see why. And this we will do for every quiz in the study guide. So we don't recommend you take these quizzes over and over again because you're sort of getting the answers as you're going. Instead, take them and use that information to study more before moving into the next module. Now, when you've gone all the way through the study guide, it's time to then test your exam readiness by taking an NHA practice assessment. So these follow the full look and feel of the actual exam itself. So the full test plan, not just a portion, right? They take you through the entire set of questions, however many scored questions on that test. There are several different test versions. No matter what, you have a total of 6 possible attempts. Now, if you've already used some of these, don't worry, but don't use them to memorize questions. These are designed to help you prepare and study for your exam. Each attempt should have the full certification exam competencies in it. But don't expect that these exact questions are going to be on your certification test. They're designed to provide feedback, reporting, additional tools to help you study. Because of this, we really recommend you treat them as close to a real exam as possible. Depending on the certification, you might have some that are timed or labeled as final. This means that the practice test will automatically time you, just like on exam day. So at this stage, we'd really recommend that you, if you don't have a timed exam, do it yourself. This way you get much more of a real experience and can feel more prepared, which I know was a lot of the concern, right, from that very first poll that I asked. If you receive this through a program, they may turn on or off question rationales to help you prepare. These look like those quiz answers as well. So we suggest that you try for at least one practice test to be as close to that real exam feel with those off if possible. And it's not even important that you take all 6 assessments, but that you do the work in between them, the study. So though you get a total of 6 attempts, we see students that use at least the first 4 as essential study tools have a higher possibility of passing their certification exam. Again, that means using the information from this assessment, not the practice test itself, to help you study more. This isn't something that you can memorize or repeat. None of these questions are going to be on the exam, but they will be similar. So don't just take them over and over again to get a good score. Use them to help you study. That's really the key piece there. So let's walk through this study process using a bit of a visual aid here. And our first suggestion is to obtain the NHA exam prep materials if you haven't already. If you're getting through these, working through your program, check in with them to how early you can access that, working through the study guide, the quizzes, using this material strategically. Download the NHA app. If you're finding a competency particularly challenging, refer to your program resources you may have or on the job training. When you're ready, take that first practice test in as close to a real exam environment as possible, even if you time yourself just to see how you do. And along with those practice tests to help further in that study before your next practice test attempt is something called the focused review. I mentioned this earlier. Using this and your additional reports is step 4 on what to do here. So the focused review is a different study tool that comes along with each practice test, along with some additional reports. They help you focus your study in between those attempts. This helps you to take the time you need to continue to work on those areas that you might still be struggling in, not just to, again, go back and try another test. So after each practice test attempt, as well as quiz, you'll get a personalized score that will load, and you'll see how you scored in each main area. Now, we're not going to tell you exactly what question you missed, but what competencies to work on. This is to be sure that you actually go back and study on the areas that need work rather than, again, just memorizing questions. From here, you can immediately launch your review. The focused review helps you to study further right in between. So we recommend spending time in this before that next attempt. So this is a different study tool specific to each practice test attempt. It helps to kind of keep you moving forward and not focused on stuff that you actually got right from that attempt. It is filterable, also printable, so you can go back and highlight areas or spend time in the competencies that you need to work on most. Now, it's not going to be interactive like the study guide, but it can make the difference in helping you through this final phase of your study timeline. So along with your score reports, you also get additional reporting that starts the moment you open your first module or quiz or practice test attempt. This detailed reporting of what you've done, how you're doing, and even some suggestions on where to go. To view your reporting for both study guide or practice tests, you want to select the module or the report that you want. And you'll be taken to a personalized overview of what you have completed, how long you've spent, your scores in each area. The practice tests work the exact same way. It will start with a kind of overall score, how long you spent, and we'll move into an overview of the main areas. This is the outline from the test plan. You can see how you scored in those areas. And if you then scroll down, you'll see all of the topics you missed at least one question on from your practice test attempt. Now, this is not the focused review, Remember, that's a separate tool that you launch to help you work through this list. Instead, this is just the outline of the areas that we would suggest you go back and study. Now, some of you may have materials that say track my progress. Then you have another different kind of reporting tool to help monitor best practices and suggestions on what to do. But either way, you do have personal reports to help track as you go through your learning. So the progress tracker can identify where you've spent your time, how much time NHA would suggest you spend in each module, says direct links back to your study guide, and show you kind of an all-time view for your access to the materials. For an even more detailed report, you can use this new format instead. And this, you can kind of choose which layout you prefer. This will show you your week at a glance, what you've done for how long, your study guide overall usage and trends in studying, and any practice test information. Now, scrolling down will take you to explore each module or lesson or quiz that you've been spending time on. Or you can choose your practice tests and you'll see when you took it, how accurate you were, how you compared potentially to the national average for that assessment. You have information on your overall score, suggested time in the focused review, time spent in review, and other information like how much time you should spend in each question or you have spent in each question. This column actually, average time per question, is a major part of exam success. Truly taking the time to read each question fully, as well as all answers provided, and working through that to discover the most right answer is a very important step to test taking strategy and pacing yourself for the exam. You don't want to spend too long on any given question, but at the same time, spending too little may be worse. So it's figuring out what that looks like for you, reading them all the way through. All this studying and hard work takes time. Knowing what to do and when to do it is an important piece of making sure your exam day is successful. I mean, surprises are great when it's your birthday, but not when you're taking an exam. So, when we're talking about studying, some of this planning ahead means preparing over a period of time, not just the week before. Real learning takes dedication, and it helps to start by establishing goals and sticking to them. Set times each day that you take a bite out of the study. No one expects you to do this overnight. Studying on your own is essential, but it can also be really helpful to have a study group or partner. You remember things differently when you work through it together, and it can help. Group study helps you to teach concepts or work on concepts together. And even if you don't have anyone to help, let us be your partner. Download that mobile app, and we can assist you with some of those flashcards for that digital experience. Okay, let's talk a little bit further about being ready on the exam day and making sure that everything is set up. So you want to make sure to assemble everything that you need the night before your exam. Your ID, your pencil, your watch. Set your alarm to be sure you arrive early. You will feel better knowing you're ready to go. Don't cram the day before the exam. Last minute study sessions actually can increase your test anxiety, which doesn't help with your ability to take the test. This may sound silly, but getting a good night's sleep and eating a healthy meal can actually help your body to be prepared beyond just your mind. So does staying positive and making sure that the things you're saying to yourself are kind. Scientifically, we remember bad things easier than good things about ourselves. So fill your mind with the thought that you can do this. So no matter how or where you're testing, be early. Testing at a campus or location, that still means you should show up early. Be prepared. Know the room you're testing in, when the exam is supposed to start. If you're testing at a third party testing location, know where you're going. Allow extra time for traffic, parking, getting into the building. If you're using a remote proctored exam through PSI, ensure your computer is compatible, your test space ready. We got lots of resources to help you with this, no matter how you're testing with us. So specifically for anyone leveraging a remote exam, there are lots of additional tools to help. Much of this is really being prepared, looking these over in advance. I keep coming back to preparation. This means also doing technology checks on the computer you're going to use, revisiting your test plan, and being early, making sure you're ready. So during an exam, here's a big thing. Don't get discouraged if you don't know an answer, but don't skip it. I mentioned earlier, there will be some questions that we don't score, and you're not going to know which ones those are. Getting one of those wrong isn't going to hurt you, but leaving it blank might if it actually is one that we're scoring. So you want to make sure to answer all questions. To help with this, rule out the wrong answers first and use your knowledge to answer to the best of your ability. If you want, bookmark it to review it at the end if there's time. It is a time test, so it's important to get all the way through. However, be sure to only use the back and forward buttons within the exam itself, not in a browser. Otherwise, you could get kicked out of the exam. So there will be a back or forward button and options within the test itself. You want to read each question all the way through, right? Watch out for those where it says, which of these is not, right? For example, or anything that has an all of the above answer choice. If you can clearly eliminate one answer choice, then you know the all of the above answer choice is wrong. So you already have a couple checked off. There's always one correct answer. So you want to read all of the answers before picking yours because sometimes it can look like there's more than one, but there's only one that is the most correct answer, right? It's a little tricky there. So with all of these resources available, how do we make sure your exam day is a great one? Well, let's revisit this timeline now that we've gone all the way through. If you can, or if your program has already provided it, get access to the NHA study materials as soon as possible. Remember, over 6,000 of your other certification holders confirmed that they wished they'd done that. On that, following good study habits is an important part of this process. With the NHA materials, we recommend you go through that study guide first, using it to help you as you get through that learning. And then when the time is right, start taking practice tests. These follow the full test plan. Use them to see how you do on the exam itself. Do not use them to memorize questions. And that's where the focused review comes in. Use it and your program materials to study in between each of those practice test attempts. And when we get closer to exam day, be sure to schedule that exam in advance, right? We need enough time to get you onto that exam roster. The day before the test, be sure you know your login information and password. You can't reset your password during an exam necessarily, so you'll be on a different computer than you've been studying on. It won't have your saved passwords. You don't want to be stuck in the testing center without being able to log in. And remember to show up early, plan ahead, and then you can finally take the exam and become NHA certified, right? Okay, so have a bonus point here. What comes after, right? It's important to know how we're going to test you, but let's take a look at what comes afterwards. To find your score, you'll want to go into your account and select your exam results link. You'll only have this after you've taken one of our exams. So if you haven't tested yet, you won't see this yet. Only anyone who's already taken an exam will have this new link. Depending on your testing method, you may see a variety of fields. This is an example of several possible outcomes. No matter if you've passed the exam or not, you will receive a score report to show you how you tested in each core area. Selecting this report will open a PDF for you. So remember the poll I did earlier, the most correct answer was that the exam has a minimum required score, what we call a scaled score, to make sure that no matter what, you're being scored fairly to evaluate your abilities. Well, here's an example of a non-passing EKG exam report showing how I did across the test plan, which we've already discussed. I can see how I did above, below, or near passing standard. So what does that mean? A near passing standard doesn't mean at passing standard. The candidate handbook talks more about this, but each of these is a range of scores. So falling near passing standard could mean that your score is at or a little below requirements, or at or a little above what's required to pass this category. An example of this is if you think about watching a child eat an ice cream cone. I know, stick with me here. The goal for the kid is to get it all in their mouth, right? Well, anyone who's ever been there knows that some may fall near that goal. Not all will make it. That's kind of what near passing standard is like. So when you review your score, you could be anywhere on the spectrum in any given category. You want to see more of them near or above passing standard than below, right? This makes sense. So here's an example of a phlebotomy exam report. Anything that is near or below passing standard would be where I struggled more on the exam. And anywhere above means I scored higher in those areas. Though again, I can be anywhere on that spectrum. So if in this scenario I didn't pass the exam, then what? Right? Well, reviewing the detailed test plan, I need to be honest with myself on how comfortable I really was in each area. Use my exam report to guide my next steps for review to maybe try a second attempt. This is a big question we get. What happens if I don't pass? Well, let's talk about what that looks like. Here's a visual aid to talk about how exam attempts work. So from your eligibility to test, you can apply for and schedule your first exam attempt. Now, if you don't make the minimum score to pass, you can then apply for another attempt. But you can't take that exam for at least 30 days. This is to give you time to review and prepare further. Okay, what happens if I don't pass a second time? Well, then it's another 30-day wait period, and you would need to apply for that exam again. Each new attempt is just like the first. So unless you're in an academic program that will pay for the cost of a retake, that may mean a new exam fee each time. This is why good study habits is so important, right? What we've been talking about this whole time. Okay, so following this rabbit hole, what if that third attempt is non-passing? Well, this is when things shift a little bit. From that point, you will be required to wait a full year before you can try the exam for a fourth time. And from there, it's another full year before you can take it again. So there isn't a limit on how many attempts you can take as long as you're still eligible to test. Okay. But we don't want you to keep having to take and pay for unsuccessful tests. We want you instead to take the exam the time that you need to really prepare, using any tool available to you in this process. So if your first attempt isn't successful, then we can work on doing everything possible to make a second attempt better. And it is completely possible. I promise. We've got some statistics on this. So we know that not everyone who doesn't pass the exam in their first attempt will retake it. Those who choose to retest, who also use NHA study materials and work to follow best practices in studying, like we've discussed, have a much higher possibility of passing that exam in their second attempt and earning their nationally accredited certification. But we also know that those who use those before their first attempt have an even higher likelihood of passing the attempt without ever needing a retake. So I know you might be concerned, but don't worry, right? Once you pass your exam, there's lots of other things you can keep going, right? There, you might be eligible for other certifications. Continue to work on that. We've got a job board where employers are posting jobs. They want to hire certified candidates. We have a blog space where we post additional tools on job searching, interview prep, resume writing suggestions. We even have podcasts. Beyond that, remember your certification requires maintenance. You have to keep them updated by completing continuing education. We've got lots of information on this in the NHA portal. We also have additional skills developers you can use to apply for some of those or continue to develop your soft skills, professionalism, and communication skills. On that, we do have some other resources out there that you can also purchase or use depending on your program, from basic learning in pharmacy technician or math and dosaging, medical terminology, A&P, as well as skills developers on medical assisting or administrative skills. That's coming here in the winter. But finally, please be proud of the work that you've done, right? Let us know, post the hashtag NHA certified on your social media platform. We love hearing from you. We love reading these. We recommend you create a LinkedIn profile if applicable. Be sure to add your credentials, but also put them in your resume, in your email signature. Remember, HR teams are looking for this information. Make it clear you're certified. If you have access to career services through your program, ask them for help. They're there to help you. And bookmark our website so you can refer back to it, access it as you need. We have thousands of examples of candidate testimonials, and we do love hearing from you. And I want to just take this minute to let you know that this is hard. And what you're doing is difficult, but it's also rewarding. We're so proud of all of you for taking this step. It's a really big step. And you're not just going to be changing your life, but the lives of those around you who are observing how hard you're working, right? The dedication you're putting into this, it does make a difference. So again, we've got lots of those testimonials out on YouTube channel. We can't wait to hear yours once you've earned your certification. So we're going to get to some Q&A. We still have some time here to catch that up. For those of you who were with us at the beginning, if you remember, I told you we were going to post a link in the chat box. So anyone who fills out the survey that's going to be posted here in just a second will be put into a raffle for a $50 gift card. So please fill this out. It gives us a little bit of information today. We're also going to be sending this recording out to everybody who registered for today's session. So thank you all so much for that. We'd look for that link here. I don't know when my team's going to be able to pop that into the chat box here for everybody right quick. Okay, so that was a lot of information, everyone. I know there's been some conversations going on in chat and in the Q&A. I'd love to open that up so that we can maybe answer a couple. I'll just go ahead and say hi. I'm still here, talking box. What have been the common questions that we've seen, team, throughout the session today?
In the beginning, we had a little issue with chat. So 2 of the questions that were in chat were, do we offer registered medical assistant?
Do we offer, let me
A
just,
the
okay,
registered medical assistant certification. I think just the comparison of registered medical assistant where it is compared to
what,
our
okay,
CMA.
I see. So what is basically the question is, let me make sure that I'm capturing that. What is the difference, or is there one, right, between maybe multiple types of certifications that are out there, right? That's kind of the general question, medical assistant being kind of what we're talking about. So I'm out on our website. And you can see this is where you can learn more information around the NHA exams. So NHA isn't the only certification company that exists, right? There are several different organizations that provide this. That's where I mentioned making sure that you look at the accreditation for any for any test or company that you're working through. So we definitely want to make sure. Oh, I'm going to turn that on. Sorry about that, guys. Chat's on now. Thank you for that, Lauren. Accreditation is an important piece of that. So NHA's medical assistant certification, the CCMA, is accredited under that NCCA, the information I was showing early on in today's session. The RMA that you're referencing is accredited under the same standards. So we don't offer that certification because ours is called the CCMA, but they hold the same level of value in the industry because they follow the same processes to get created and we're evaluated at the same level. Does that answer that question, Mary?
Taking myself off mute. Yes, it does. Thank you.
Perfect. Great.
Okay.
All right.
And then I have another one. If you get an unscored question correct, does it count towards your scores?
So it's a non-scored question, right? That kind of answers its own its own question.
Exactly.
Right? So there's no score value added to that. It's not a part of the scoring system. None of those questions that are not scored are included in any way, pro or con, towards your scoring on the exam. But you're not going to know which ones they are. That's really the biggest deal there. That's why we bring that up. So it is possible. Oh, great. Susan just posted in the chat box to everybody the link for that survey. Go ahead and open that up now if you can, fill it out. We want you to try to get that $50. It'd be really great for you. So but non-scored questions are in fact non-scored. They don't help, they don't hurt, but you don't know if it is non-scored, so don't leave it blank. That's really the point there. Does that answer that question?
Yes. And then another one, it was bouncing around results. So explain to them how soon they'll see the results if testing at their institution versus testing through a PSI testing center.
Oh, that's a great question. So I mentioned, and I'm just going to go back over here to this page. Once your exam has occurred, now if you're testing on site at your institution being proctored live there at your campus, for example, your results are going to be pretty quick. You will get an email notifying you when they're live, but it could be fairly instantaneous once the exam is closed by the proctor. If you're testing third party through a third party location, remote testing, it takes a little bit longer for those results to load. You will still get an email that says, hey, your results are live, but it can go up to, though not often, but it can take up to 3 business days for that to show up. But that should be the longest wait period that you would have for this exam results link to populate and for you to be able to see your certification. Great questions. You guys, these are great questions. Keep them
So,
coming.
Laura, there was somebody in the chat asking what kind of grade you have to get to pass the exam. So can you go over grading versus the scaled scoring or the scoring again?
Yeah, definitely. So we don't have a grade, right, per se, but we talked a little bit earlier on about the scaled scoring. And I'm just going to go back here, talking about how the test plan is broken into different areas. So when we have a test plan, each test itself, so no matter which certification you're sitting for, there's a potential for you to get 500 points on that exam. That's a maximum score value based off of your unique question sets that you get for the test you're taking. So that's not a grade, right? That's different. A grade is something you get through an academic program. That means, you've met certain requirements, whatever that might be. So the 500 perfect score, you have to get at least 390 points to earn the certification, what's considered a passing score. But that again is weighted in several different layers. How hard is the question? How often do you have to do that in your job? How important is it you get it right the first time? Like, these are all kinds of different layers that we use so that we can be sure that no matter what, if you have a bunch of hard questions in a given category, that's going to mean it carries more weight for you and your scoring. So you might have easier questions in another category, right? Everybody has the same possible maximum point value. So it's not a grade, right? It's a little bit different from that. Does that help answer that question, Susan?
I hope so.
Me too. But these are really great questions, guys, truly.
Absolutely. Great questions. And the grading versus the scaled scoring is definitely a confusing question and one we get asked all the time.
Even from instructors, right? Even teachers
Absolutely.
ask us that all the time. That's right.
Absolutely.
Okay. So I see there's a question here. Lisa just posted a question on the billing and coding versus the MA. So the point is, no matter what test you're taking, right? No matter if it's the medical assisting test, the billing and coding test, the phlebotomy test, even though there's going to be different amounts of scored questions, it's always going to be that same number. 500 points is the perfect score for a phlebotomy test, is a perfect score for an EKG test, is a perfect score for you, sweetie, billing and coding, with a 390 across those scored weighted questions being your minimum passing score.
Hey, Laura,
Yeah.
can you just point out, I'm getting several questions from anonymous attendees, and then there are continuations of questions, and I'm not sure who's asking for a continuation of a question because there's no other details. So I'm just getting, it's clear who's asking what and additional questions.
Oh gosh. Okay. So if we are labeled as an anonymous attendee and have been chatting with Connie in the Q&A there, if you could maybe get a little bit more clarity to what we're trying to talk to. I know there's still a lot of questions out there. So as a quick refresher, we've got 8 of our nationally accredited exams. Each one of these has the potential for a preparation package, study guide, practice tests, reporting, everything we've been talking about is available. If you're doing this through an academic program, it's possible they're going to give it to you, already have. If you're doing this by yourself, you may want to purchase that or have your employer look to help reimburse you for that if they're not already giving it to you. But we've been talking about studying and preparing so that you feel confident in taking that exam. But ultimately, you don't have to do any of that as long as you're eligible to test, right? Eligibility does depend on you. If you've met the minimum requirements, again, we've got resources to help you with that. But again, I've been seeing a couple of questions about different pieces in there. So I'm not sure if that covers kind of the generality of what we've been talking to, Connie, but anonymous, let us know if we haven't been able to answer your full question, okay?
I did send my email privately to some of the anonymous people. I'm not sure if I'm double sending it. Apparently not to this person, so I'll send it to this person.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you for all of your hard work, Connie.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's see. There's so many questions. What other webinars do we have coming up? Oh gosh, we've got all kinds of webinars that we're doing, but this was a really thick one. There was a lot of information in here, and we are coming up on our hour. So remember, you can access the test plans and all the information from nhanow.com. So if you want to go in and take a look at what that test plan is going to cover, what resources are available to you, what are all the different pieces, there's lots of information on here. Click around, make your NHA account. From an NHA login account, you've got how-to resources and walkthroughs. We start to send you information. I'm going to go ahead and open up this test plan. So for the CCMA, for example, that test plan will tell you how many scored questions there are, how many non-scored. So there's a total of 180 questions on this test. It's going to be a 3-hour timed exam. Here's the content we'll test you on. Everything is right here at your fingertips. We have been recording this. We will send the recording out to everyone who registered for today. Again, we are coming up on our 1 hour. I'm going to stop the recording, but we do have a few minutes. We can stick around and answer kind of subsequent questions as they still come in if we need to. But I do want to say real quick, thank you to everybody who joined us. Please go ahead and link that survey, answer that survey link so that you can be put into the raffle to win that $500 gift card, and expect an email here in the next week or so from NHA with today's recording in it. Thank you so much on all that you've asked. I'm going to stick around for a little bit longer and answer some additional questions as they come in, but thanks you guys so much for today.